Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Among the blessings we need to cultivate for our spiritual practice, there's a crucial one. The blessing of helping others practice. The blessing of helping others practice alongside us. If we do this, we too gain the blessings necessary for our own spiritual journey. Take this morning, for instance. I visited the meditation retreat in Bhutan, and some people were asking, why do I always fall asleep when I try to meditate? Or why do I suddenly face obstacles when I go to the pagoda, even though my heart genuinely loves the temple and truly wants to practice? The root cause of this lies in a past life. In some distant past life, we might have hindered someone else's spiritual practice. Back then, perhaps we didn't understand the Dharma very well. We saw a family member wanting to practice and we'd say this or that. What are you doing? Why bother with such things? Later on, when we ourselves come to understand the Dharma and resolve to practice, we inevitably face the lingering consequences of those actions. These consequences mean we have to struggle immensely to overcome them. Otherwise, we simply keep encountering obstacles. We fall asleep when we try to meditate alone. Or we get a headache every time we go to the pagoda. We can go out and have a great time, feeling joyful, but as soon as we head to the pagoda, we suddenly feel exhausted. These are the signs. But for those who have accumulated enough blessings, it's the opposite. They might feel tired after going out to play, but they find joy and energy when they go to the pagoda. So, for us sitting here, when we go to the pagoda, do we feel joyful or tired? Joyful, right? If we felt tired, we would have already left. So, the fact that we can still be here, sitting, means we have a lot of blessings. Now, consider those who, in past lives, helped others practice. Those who guided and encouraged others to go to the pagoda and engage in spiritual practice. In their subsequent lives, their own spiritual journey becomes incredibly smooth and thuan loy. This is the law of karma. This is the immense merit. Earlier, when Venerable Kai Tang spoke with his northern accent, could you all understand everything? Yes, you could, right? It wasn't too much of a hindrance. I'm usually more concerned about the Hue accent. From central Vietnam, Quang Tri, Nayan. Sometimes people aren't used to it, but the northern accent is generally easy to follow. So today, I'm talking about the blessing we gain when we practice and guide others to practice together. Never ever neglect or abandon those around us who don't know how to practice, who are unfamiliar with the Dharma. Because this merit, this tsongduk, is extraordinarily important. If we truly want to progress in our practice, there's a line in the Diamond Sutra that poses a challenge, a line that I will elaborate on later, but many people often forget it. Venerable Subhuti asked the Buddha, "How can one attain enlightenment?" And the Buddha replied, "You must liberate sentient beings." This statement has been a challenge for centuries. People wonder, if I haven't attained enlightenment myself, how can I possibly liberate sentient beings? Yet, I must liberate sentient beings to attain enlightenment. This creates a perplexing dilemma. As a result, people have often reinterpreted it, saying perhaps sentient beings here is an implicit reference to our own delusions. If we eliminate all our delusions, then we will attain enlightenment. No, the Buddha did not speak implicitly. The Buddha spoke directly. To attain enlightenment, you must liberate sentient beings. And so it is with us. If we wish to make progress in our spiritual practice, we must guide many people to practice together. This is a very, very crucial point. If we don't guide anyone to practice, if we simply go to the pagoda alone or meditate by ourselves, our spiritual practice will find it very, very difficult to progress. I once wrote a sentence in a declaration about duty. Human beings have the sacred responsibility to bring happiness to one another, because on the path to happiness, there are no lonely travelers. No one can reach happiness alone. Similarly, no one can ever reach enlightenment alone. That is the fundamental principle. So, when we practice, please remember this. Never practice alone. However, here we encounter a familiar challenge. I just said we must encourage others to go to the pagoda, but someone might think my own spiritual merit isn't much. If I try to invite people to the pagoda, they might be suspicious. They might say this or that about me. This exact difficulty is what we're going to address today. Because it's not the case that we must already be highly enlightened and profoundly virtuous before we invite others to practice. In fact, it is precisely when our own practice is still very very imperfect that we must invite others to practice. Is that difficult? It is very difficult, because we haven't practiced much ourselves. We go and sweet-talk them, come to the pagoda today, please. Then we go home and immediately get into a big argument with our neighbors and they hear it. They say, good heavens, that person just came over and invited me to the pagoda. And now they're back home yelling at their spouse. That immediately nullifies everything. They'll say, if you're going to invite me to the pagoda, you should at least be gentle and kind. You just invited me to the pagoda, and now you're home yelling at your wife and kids. That makes them lose all desire to go to the pagoda. This is the challenge. We are still very imperfect in our practice, yet we still have to invite others to the pagoda. And we must find a way to overcome this, because if we don't guide anyone to the pagoda, our own practice will never progress. This is the crux of the matter. Today we will analyze these points. Why, even though we are still lacking, we must guide others to practice together. Here are ways we can guide people to practice without incurring faults and, in fact, gain blessings. It's like this example. We go to our neighbor and say, tomorrow, there's a meditation retreat at Fat Nok Pagoda. Come with me to practice meditation. The other person doesn't understand a thing. What is meditating? We explain. You sit cross-legged like the Buddha, you regulate your breath, you focus your mind, you enter samadhi, and then you attain enlightenment. They listen to us and are so captivated. Then we say, okay, tomorrow I'll invite you, so please get ready. Then, 10 minutes later, they go home and hear us arguing loudly from our house. The neighbor hears us arguing and thinks, huh? What that person just said sounded so profound. But why are they back home arguing now? That's when their faith completely collapses. The next day, if we invite them, they won't go. We've lost immediately. Why? Because the way we spoke earlier caused us to lose blessings. We should have gained blessings, but our manner of speaking made us lose them. We went home and became angry immediately. But if we had spoken correctly earlier, we wouldn't have gotten angry at home. The law of karma influences us immediately. For example, when we go to our neighbor and invite them to the pagoda, we should say this: sentient beings like us are filled with mistakes and suffering. My entire life has been full of mistakes and suffering. But then, when I encountered the Dharma, I finally found a safe harbor. Then we praise the Buddha, we praise the Dharma, we praise the noble Sangha. Remember, always praise the Buddha first. That guarantees blessings. Don't praise yourself. If we say that, nothing bad will happen to us when we go home, and we will gain blessings. But if we go and say this, something will definitely happen when we go home. Since I started practicing meditation, my heart has been light and joyful. I face everything with peace and equanimity. I understand everything I see. I recognize everyone immediately. If we say that something will definitely happen when we go home, there will be arguments and chaos in the house. Because that boastful way of speaking, that bragging, will inevitably lead to trouble. But if we simply praise everything about the Buddha, about the saints, about the Dharma, then after that conversation we will immediately gain blessings when we go home. We will automatically feel very stable. This law of karma is very, very clear. Not long ago, there was a well-known public figure who declared he had attained enlightenment. He proclaimed himself the new spiritual leader of this era. He even stated that the world was like grass and dust. After reading the news articles and hearing his pronouncements, I thought, oh dear, trouble is surely coming for this person. Even though he was famous and wealthy, I was so worried for him. I didn't know what to do. Because once he also came to meet me, he connected with me. After our meeting, I told others, this man is beyond help. He's already floating on clouds. No curing him now. But the more news articles I read about him later, he wasn't just floating on clouds anymore, he was heading to the moon. He claimed no one on earth was his equal. That he was the only one who saw through all things in the universe, and so on. I was so concerned. And sure enough, today, the newspapers are still reporting that the meditation retreat where he practices is where he welcomes beautiful, long-legged women coming and going, driving fancy cars and so on. The newspapers reported it and I said, here it comes. That's exactly right. Now people will stop believing what he says because he just spoke about being on the clouds. And today he's doing this and he does it so naturally. Why? Because of those boastful words, when in reality no one is truly liberated in this era. So we must be extremely humble. The karmic merit we need to sow is to help everyone practice. But spiritual practice is a lofty, noble, and profound endeavor. If we're not careful when we talk about the Dharma, we might sound like we're claiming a high status and then we will immediately fall. Karma will strike and we will collapse instantly. But when we guide others, when we persuade others, when we encourage others to practice, we have a way of speaking that attributes all the sublime and extraordinary qualities to the Buddha. Then we gain a tremendous amount of blessings. And it's incredibly effective. We simply criticize ourselves and attribute all praise to the Buddha and the noble Sangha. Then, naturally, we cultivate faith in everyone without falling into the fault of boasting or arrogance. Abbot Thich Subat from Tu Tan Vien Giak has a unique characteristic. When talking about the Dharma, he always manages to criticize himself at some point. It's truly peculiar. He'll say, "This Venerable Master is truly remarkable." Usually, people rarely dare to criticize themselves. But when talking with Abbot Tu Tan, I don't know how he lectures, as I haven't heard him much, though many people praise his lectures these days, but in private conversation, just the two of us. At some point, he would always criticize himself. I was amazed. How does he possess this quality? Later, after reading many texts, I discovered that people from Quang Tri have a tendency for self-deprecating humor to make fun of themselves. People from Quang Tri have that trait. Each region has its own unique humor. But people from Quang Tri have a very peculiar way of humor. They often use themselves as the subject of jokes and create humor in conversations. Unintentionally, this brings them blessings. Lowering oneself actually makes one's blessings rise. So it is. When we talk about spiritual practice and guiding others, remember this. In our minds, we must have countless stories of the Buddha's merits, virtues, and miraculous deeds, stories that can never be exhausted. Therefore, we must internalize the Buddha's life, the Buddha's teachings, and the stories from the Buddha's life. We must know them by heart so that when we talk with our Dharma friends, we can often recount these stories, making everyone feel inspired and increasing their reverence for the Buddha. That means we gain blessings. Remember that. And it's not just about the Buddha. Many arhats and other noble Sangha members had very special merits and virtues. But one specific detail is that we couldn't record everything. In the past, the one who remembered and recorded was Venerable Ananda, and he mainly just followed the Buddha. So all the stories revolved around the Buddha. As for the stories of other venerables, he did hear some and he recounted what he remembered. If he didn't hear it, he skipped it. But each life of an arhat can truly be called an unending epic. Just one human life is a great epic, a vast story. But unfortunately, we couldn't record them. Let's put it simply. For example, Venerable Savali. He was in his mother's womb for 7 years. He was born knowing how to speak and walk. 7 days after his birth, he had his hair shaved and attained arhatship immediately. And during his entire life, from his enlightenment until his parinirvana, where did he go? Who did he meet? How did he teach? There are countless wonderful stories that we couldn't record. To the extent that once the Buddha was traveling a long distance. In ancient times, remember, it was jungle paths, muddy roads eroded by rainwater, very difficult. And it was rare to pass a village or town. When traveling such a long distance, sometimes they would pass through a section of forest with no people. No people meant no one to offer food. Many people worried, "Venerable world-honored one, this path is too long. There are no villages, no residents. How can we go for alms?" The Buddha simply asked, "Is Savali in our group?" Because there were hundreds of people following the Buddha. Yes, Savali is here. At that time, Venerable Savali was still young. Although he attained arhatship very early, he was still very young, only about a dozen years old. The Buddha said, if Savali is here, there's no need to worry. So, at mealtime, Devis would appear immediately, carrying baskets of rice and water, offering them properly. Everyone ate, and then the Devis disappeared. Then they continued walking. When they reached a point where they needed to eat the next day, Devis would appear again and offer food. Why? Because Venerable Savali's blessings were so immense, so all-encompassing. Devis were never allowed to let Venerable Savali go hungry or lack anything. Whatever he needed, Devis brought it immediately. Such profound blessings. Why was this so? Because in many past lives, his practice of giving and offering was boundless. His mind for giving and offering was boundless. It shook heaven and earth. Offering when we have possessions is one thing. offering when we have absolutely nothing to offer. That is truly magnificent. That is what truly shakes all layers of heaven. That's the story we heard. His mind of compassion and generosity was such that he went for alms, he ate. Sometimes he sat under a tree and ate with his hands. Remember, in India, people ate with their hands. So, anyone who says they ate with spoons is writing false history. At that time, people ate with their hands. After he finished eating, a hungry dog came running, smelling the food. His bowl was already empty. He looked at it and knew it was extremely hungry because it was nursing its puppies and was skin and bones. He used his spiritual power and vomited all the food out for the dog to eat. And remember, if he had waited a little longer, digestive fluids would have secreted. Digestive fluids are hydrochloric acid, so the dog wouldn't be able to eat it. He immediately used his power to prevent the digestive fluids from secreting in time, so the food hadn't mixed with acid. He vomited it out for the dog to eat immediately. And so, he went hungry that day. He didn't go for alms anymore. This means that his compassion, his practice of giving and offering, reached such a level that we don't know what words to use to praise it. What words? Any words are difficult, it's simply incredible. Usually, if we've eaten something and someone asks for it, we'd say, "Oh, go find something else. It's already in my stomach." Meaning, once it's in the stomach, it's done. Yet, he could still vomit it out. His merits and virtues shook all layers of heaven. Therefore, Devas loved him beyond imagination. They simply followed him, just watched over him. Whatever he needed, they offered it. Such blessings. And if Venerable Savali was in a group, the whole group never had to worry about hunger. He lived like that until he entered parinirvana. But the things he taught, the things he imparted, the things that brought profound emotion to sentient beings through the Dharma, were never recorded. Those lives were never recorded. And the fact that his life was not recorded is a huge, huge loss for this world, for these sentient beings. Because if we had those materials today, we could recount them and uplift the souls of countless more people. Couldn't we? So, it's a great pity that not just Venerable Savali, but many arhats during the Buddha's time were like that. Each of their lives was an unimaginable marvel. Now, similarly, we have a question. We must liberate others to practice. Help others practice. And we are always tormented by this thought, I haven't practiced enough. I don't dare to talk about the Dharma to anyone. If we don't overcome this persistent thought, this obsession, we will never accumulate blessings. We will always be hesitant, always reluctant, thinking, I haven't achieved anything in my practice, so I don't dare to liberate others. Then we will forever lack the blessings needed for our own spiritual journey. So it is precisely when our own practice is still nothing much that we must strive our utmost to help others practice. It's just like someone saying, to practice, one must know how to make offerings and accumulate merit. The first answer we usually hear and almost instinctively say is, wait until I'm a bit well off, then I'll make offerings and accumulate merit. Right now, I'm still too poor. All of us are affected by this answer, aren't we? Everyone is affected by this answer. Then we ask, when will you be well off? And the answer is, well, I need to have a house, a bit of property, a car, before I can. Right now, I'm still struggling. Everyone has their own needs. Everyone tries to claim their own share of benefits. In times of hardship, who can truly claim their share? Everyone has needs. For example, this month we have 10 million VND. In our minds, we've already allocated all 10 million, haven't we? 1 million for this, 500,000 for that, 2 million for the other thing, and at least 500,000 saved, for example. Or a certain amount of money set aside to pay off that lady's 1 million VND debt. So, if this month we have 10 million VND, we've already meticulously planned how to spend it. There isn't a single extra dong. Now suddenly someone says, Sister, Central Vietnam is facing difficulties. Will you contribute? We immediately start to ponder, to think deeply. We have to figure out which portion to cut out, which expenses to forego this month, perhaps postpone them until next month in order to contribute to the flood relief in Central Vietnam. Or someone says today there's an opportunity to make an offering to the pagoda. Will you contribute? We immediately start thinking because our money has already been tightly budgeted. There's no surplus. But now we have to make merit and withdraw from it. We have to calculate. It is precisely this calculation, this need to calculate, that makes it difficult for us to make merit. It makes it difficult to make merit. And we must strive to overcome this obstacle. If we can't overcome it, we won't have blessings. But we can't be reckless and say, as my master said, even when poor, one must try to make merit and then take out all 10 million and use it for merit making, and our family goes hungry, too bad. That's also not acceptable. Why? Because we still have responsibilities to our family. Our family members must be stable first. We cannot be reckless and simply make merit without considering our family's safety. So, this is a difficult problem. We must try to make merit while still ensuring our family's livelihood. And if we prioritize ensuring our family's livelihood and don't make merit, we lose immediately. But if we recklessly make merit without ensuring our family's safety, our family will also fall apart. So this is something I cannot solve for everyone. Each person must solve it for themselves. Each person must strive. Even in difficult times, we must try. This phrase, even in difficult times, we must try. Where do we hear it most often? Where do we hear it most often? In the resistance wars, in the resistance against the French, in the resistance against the Americans. If calculated by military numbers, the French calculated it, the Americans also calculated it. They knew exactly how much weaponry was supplied, how much food, how many people. Their intelligence knew everything. And with that number of people, that much weaponry, that much logistical support, they could have simply crushed us immediately. Because they were so powerful, they had enough resources, enough food, enough weapons, enough means. If you weighed us, they had 100, we had 1. Take 100 to fight 1, we would be wiped out immediately. They would win immediately. But they fought and didn't win. In the end, we, the ones who only had 1, won. We were the ones who went hungry, whose clothes were sometimes just shorts, who didn't have shoes, who didn't have enough food, not enough bullets, not enough strength, yet we won. Why? Because we knew it was difficult, but we tried. We are the same now. Everyone is poor. This statement, everyone is poor, is a bit offensive because there are probably rich people here, but they usually hide it very well. So we are still struggling, but please try hard, okay? Try hard to always rack your brains to find ways, even in your difficulties, to still help others. Still try to help others live, help others practice. That's about financial difficulties. Now, let's talk about the second difficulty. The difficulty in our own spiritual practice. Our practice isn't much, our spiritual power is very little, just like our money is very little. But we still have to give charity and help others. So, 2, our spiritual power is very little, but we still have to help others practice. This is a very difficult problem. And this difficulty is not like a poor person who wants to help others and takes out all their money to help. Then they starve to death, they die too. Let's use an example. The house next door is on fire. In our house, we only have 3 million VND and 100 kilograms of rice. Our neighbor's house burned down completely. It's worse off than ours. And because of our compassion, we take all 3 million VND and 100 kilograms of rice and give it to them so they can live and rebuild their house. Is that right? Is that wise? Who dares to do that? Raise your hand. No one dares to do that. Because to save the person whose house burned down, we would starve to death immediately, wouldn't we? Our house would be out of money and rice, our whole family would die. So, that way of helping is not wise. So how can we be wise? We go and call for help, right? We invite this person and that person, saying someone's house burned down over there. Let's each contribute a little to help them. So, with many people contributing, that person will be helped and we won't starve to death either. The same goes for the Dharma. Our spiritual power is still very little, but we have to entice people to practice, persuade people to practice. So we also have to call for help. We use the blessings of others to liberate people to practice, not our own spiritual power. We contribute the spiritual power of others to liberate people to practice, not rely on our own spiritual power because our spiritual power is still very weak. So, we must use the spiritual power of others to entice people to practice. What does using the spiritual power of others mean? It means telling stories of the Buddha's example, of the saints, and of Dharma friends who have inspiring stories, right? Because there are inspiring stories in this life, in real life, there are people who have done extraordinary, miraculous things, not none at all. For example, we tell a story. I have a Dharma friend. He was wealthy, but every weekend, he would go around the neighborhood picking up trash. At first, people saw him picking up trash and laughed, saying, "He's a boss. Why is he picking up trash?" But gradually he was persistent. Let whoever laughed, he kept picking up trash. Until one day, everyone realized that picking up trash and not littering is a citizen's responsibility. It reflects the level of civilization in this modern age. So, people stopped littering and some even started picking up trash with him. It was precisely his humility, quietness, lack of boasting, diligent and meticulous work, little by little, that persuaded that entire neighborhood to keep their area clean. More than 1,000 words ever could. Because if it were a sanitation worker picking up trash, people would see it as normal. It's your job, you get paid, so you have to pick up trash. My job is to litter. And your job is to pick up trash because you get paid. But here, they saw a rich man picking up trash, and the perception immediately reversed. He wasn't getting paid, he wasn't poor. But he picked up trash out of community awareness. This teaches people many lessons. And where did that man come from? He often helps with meditation retreats. Their hearts are humble and light. They don't see themselves as important. They do whatever needs to be done without distinguishing between noble and lowly tasks. They do whatever benefits the community. Those are such touching stories that we know and tell our Dharma friends. And those small things move everyone. So we don't use our own spiritual power. Our spiritual power is too little. If we boast, we'll definitely get angry and argue when we go home. But we gather the spiritual power of many people to liberate others to practice together. Today, we learned a really good trick. Remember that when we go home. There's one more thing. When we liberate others to practice, we often feel compelled to talk about sublime things. All of us are in a lowly state, aren't we? We are ignorant, foolish, greedy, angry, and deluded sentient beings. And when we practice, it's to step up to a more noble, more sublime level. And everyone dreams of overcoming their ordinary state and stepping up to a sublime level. Everyone dreams of that. So the way we persuade them is, oh, you go practice, follow me. Go to the pagoda to practice meditation to achieve this, to achieve that. The person who hears this will look at us and see if we are already sublime, right? They'll see if we are sublime. And if at that moment we say, I am sublime, then our life is ruined, we'll go straight to hell. That's the difficulty. So how can we still be very humble, not let others think we are sublime, but still plant the dream of a sublime ideal in everyone? That's the challenge. And if we can do that, we will be very stable, very stable. It's the same with my master. For many years, my master has also only taught the Dharma in this way. Have you noticed? Have you listened to his lectures? My master talks about the sublimity of the Buddha and the noble Sangha. But have you ever heard any lecture where he says he is sublime? Has he? Absolutely never will you find a trace of that, right? You won't find a trace of it. Why? Because truly, my master is not sublime. He's very ordinary. But what's good is that he borrows the spiritual power of the Buddha and the saints to liberate sentient beings. And he liberates many sentient beings without having any spiritual power himself. He just borrows it. But when he borrows the spiritual power of the Buddha and the saints, he gains blessings. As for himself, he has no spiritual power. That's why my master can teach sustainably. Because there's never a trace, even after listening to thousands of lectures. Never a trace that shows my master is sublime. Because he's not sublime. But everyone likes listening. Why? Because he borrows the Buddha's spiritual power. We must be skillful in our speech like that, then we will be stable. We need these qualities when we liberate others. First, generosity in the face of sentient beings' unpleasantness. Sentient beings are very unpleasant, very annoying. Some are narrow-minded, some are selfish, some are boastful, some are short-tempered, some are greedy, some are angry, deluded. All sorts of things exist in the world, but don't hate them, then you can truly liberate them. It's precisely because they are still imperfect that we need to bring them to goodness. If they were already good, why would we need to liberate them? So, when we accept to liberate sentient beings and guide them towards spiritual practice, we must understand a fundamental truth. They are unpleasant people. We don't say bad, we say unpleasant. It's like someone saying, "Teacher, I'm not going to offer food to hungry ghosts anymore. Those hungry ghosts are causing too much trouble in my house." I say, "You must be patient, because the very nature of ghosts is to cause trouble. If they didn't cause trouble, they would have found their way home. They would have gone to a heavenly realm or a divine realm or found temples and palaces, or they would have been reborn as happy human beings. But they died and couldn't reincarnate anywhere. They are wandering around on the streets, hungry and suffering because their nature is to cause trouble. So now we offer them food. They are happy. They come and eat immediately. But when they eat, are they gentle? Are they grateful to us? No. Remember, we offer food to hungry ghosts every day. But they are never grateful to us and never treat us well. But why do we continue? We must be generous. Just keep offering them food. Why? Because they are hungry, that's all. And when we offer, we recite a Buddhist sutra for them to hear, gradually transforming their minds. It takes 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years or more for the wandering ghosts that we often offer food to gradually transform their minds and become gentler. But in the first 3 years of offering food to hungry ghosts, we are surrounded by wandering spirits, lonely souls. Kohan means solitary ghosts, and Kakdang means groups of ghosts. All of them are dangerous. Many of them were real gangsters when they were alive. We must be generous. That's why I often advise everyone to try to offer food to hungry ghosts in the evening, because there are many hungry ghosts around us. It's a reality of life. Many people die without knowing they are dead. Just like recently on a TV program that researched phenomena about ghosts. There was a story about how, some years ago, there was a tsunami in Japan that hit the area where the nuclear power plant broke down. So many people died, houses were washed away. There was a woman who could see ghosts, she could talk to ghosts. She told a story. She said that when she drove back to that area about a year later, she saw many ghosts still wandering around. They stopped her car and asked her for directions home because they didn't know the way home. In that realm, they were confused. She said, I had to tell them the truth, that they were dead and had to accept this because even then they still didn't know they were dead, still wandering around in confusion. There are many Hollywood movies that talk about this. Like the story, in that story, there's a mother raising 2 children. She goes back and takes over her house and she keeps scolding the housekeeper for always opening the windows, saying she should close the windows. When we watch the whole movie from the beginning, we don't know what the movie is about. Only at the end of the movie do we realize that she is a ghost. She is the ghost. Her 2 children also died with her. They are also ghosts. She comes back to life. She keeps thinking she's alive, but she doesn't realize she's already dead. In that world, there are many such cases. So, liberating sentient beings is also like that. It's not that they are already good. They have all sorts of unpleasant things, but we must be generous. We must understand that. Don't criticize, just keep trying to persuade. Secondly, we must be patient. What does patience mean? Sentient beings don't want to practice immediately, because they haven't had the affinity to practice. They have too few blessings. In the past, they never wanted to practice. They were busy making a living, busy with this and that. When we invite them to the pagoda, they give all sorts of reasons not to go. Tomorrow there's an anniversary, the day after tomorrow a wedding, the day after that I have to plant rice. Or I have to go trading. They have all sorts of excuses which makes us discouraged. We invite them to the pagoda, we invite them again and again, but they don't go. So what must we do? Be patient. That means invite them, don't be discouraged, don't give up on them. Keep pleading, persuading, reminding them until they soften up and put aside other things to go to the pagoda with us. So, we must be patient. Why? Because deep down, they don't like going to the pagoda and they don't have the affinity to practice. And they have to be busy making a living and all sorts of other things. So, it's not easy for them to just go to the pagoda when we invite them. No, there are all sorts of difficulties. Their nature is already imperfect, and secondly, they don't have the affinity to go to the pagoda and they don't even like going to the pagoda. We must be very patient to invite others to the pagoda. Thirdly, after patience, the third is perseverance. What does perseverance mean? If we have invited someone, then stick with them until they. Who can answer this question? I'll praise you if you answer it well. That is, until they become stable in their practice, no longer needing us to invite them, right? Very good. Let's give them a round of applause. We have 3 types of cases where we stick with them until. First, we stick with them until they run away from us, they see us and disappear, they can't stand us anymore. Then, we have no other way to stick with them, so we lose. Second, we stick with them until they die. We never let go of them again. We liberate them until they die. And third, like this lady just said, until they are stable in their practice and have become someone who liberates others. Then, We can let go of that person because they are already stable and have become an inspiration for many others to follow. Then we don't stick with them anymore. That person is good to go. As for the other two cases, yes, there are two cases. One, if they're not good, we stick with them until they die. Then they go to the realm of death and we can't follow them anymore, so we let go. If they die and we still stick with them, we'll die too. So let go. And the case where we stick with them until they see us and run away, they climb over the fence and disappear, then we can't stick with them anymore. That means our way of liberating is too good. We talk so well that they see us and run away. They go out the back door, climb over the fence and run away. That's very good. So, there are three cases where we must stick with them. But the most ideal is to stick with them until that person becomes stable and strong. And they are strong enough to liberate others. So, the fourth element is subtlety. Subtlety means we understand the psychology and capacity of each person to guide them. Because in this life, no one is the same. No one is the same. Each person has different preferences, strengths, and weaknesses. And we must understand our friend's psychology to guide them to the pagoda. Is anyone here single? So, if anyone here is single and wants to find a partner, we invite them to attend a meditation retreat here. We say that people who practice meditation cannot be single. Saying that some people have a competitive mentality, so we cannot indulge them. We cannot say, you practice meditation and you'll be in the clouds, you'll be higher than others. If we say that, they will go crazy. We must eliminate that mentality and make them, the more they practice, the more humble they become. And when they become more humble, they find happiness. The happiness of seeing oneself as small, the happiness of being able to respect others. That is a great happiness. We try to persuade people to be like that, not to indulge their mentality. So, this is called subtlety. We understand people's psychology and capacity and guide them into the Dharma. The fifth element is prayer. When we want to liberate someone, never rely on our own strength, on our own words, on our own ability to persuade others to practice. But we must know how to pray. Pray to the Buddha and the Arhats to bless us so that we can liberate that person. Once we have someone in mind, we must immediately clasp our hands and pray to the Buddha, saying, "Dear Buddha, I have a neighbor over there. I've met them for a long time, and I want to guide them to practice. Their name is so-and-so, their house is such and such. Please, Buddha, bless me so I can liberate that person." If we keep praying like that, then at some point, we will suddenly meet that person and they will be easy to listen to. Never rely on our own eloquence. No one in this world can achieve anything just by being eloquent. We must always rely on the blessings from the Buddhas, that's how it is. Another element is reliance on the Sangha Dharma community, because there are things that we cannot handle alone. For example, now we go to meet someone and persuade them to practice, to go to the pagoda. We say, Buddhism is the path of compassion. We tell that person that they should practice generosity, make offerings, build roads, release animals, plant trees, help the poor. We are speaking very well. Suddenly, that person gets into an accident, gets hit by a car, and breaks a leg. At that point, we hide, we don't go to them anymore. Will they still believe in our Buddhism? No, no, no. First, we must help that person. Help them get medical treatment first. Because they haven't practiced yet. They just heard us praise Buddhism and they got hit by a car and broke a leg. And we are poor, we can't afford all their hospital bills and treatment. So, at that point, what do we need? We need our Dharma friends, the Sangha. So, everyone contributes a little to treat that person's illness first. After their leg heals, they will be moved. They will say, oh, this person came to me. And behind them is a whole Sangha of Dharma friends, full of people who are connected, who love each other, who support each other. When one horse is sick, the whole stable doesn't eat grass. When one person has a problem, many people gather to help. Then they will see how happy life in the Sangha is, which will make them indebted to us. When they were in an accident and we helped them, they will feel grateful in their hearts. After they recover, they will definitely be attached to the Sangha and practice. Therefore, when we liberate others to practice, we must always rely on our Sangha. Never be complacent and rely solely on your own strength. There's one more element. When we approach someone to guide them to practice, we must have interaction and exchange. We call this approach. We approach that person, but at a level where we don't delve too deeply into each other's private lives. Be careful. Because experience shows that when we know too much about each other, it's often easy for things to fall apart, Some married couples are like that. At first, they loved each other very much, but when they lived together, they were shocked because they understood each other too well and couldn't bear it. While they were friends, while they were lovers, it was very good. But when they became husband and wife, it wasn't like that because they knew too much about each other. Some married couples overcome it and endure, but some just, their love has already withered. Why? Because from afar, when we are outside, everyone's life looks sparkling and beautiful. But when we get close, the nature of all sentient beings is that they are all sentient beings. Everyone is ignorant, greedy, angry, deluded, selfish, envious. It all comes out and it's easy to conflict, easy to break up. Therefore, family members, husband and wife, parents and children are forced to accept each other no matter how imperfect they are, they just have to accept each other. But as Dharma friends, within a certain limit, we never approach too deeply into each other's lives. Remember that. Be careful. When we come to our Dharma friends, we talk, we exchange, we guide, we instruct. It will definitely form a connection, a relationship, but a relationship within a certain measure. How? It must be just right. Never become something that delves too deeply into each other's lives, because that is extremely dangerous, Just within limits, then the affection will last forever. But if you delve too deeply, it's easy to break up, Here, we can draw two conclusions. First, the poorer we are, the more we must try to make merit. Remember, when our practice is still imperfect, the more boldly we must help others practice. Those are the two things to remember. Don't say, I'm poor, so I don't make merit. That's a big mistake. My practice is too poor. I don't dare to liberate anyone. That's the second mistake. These two things are what we are entangled in so much that we become passive. We don't help anyone, our blessings don't increase, and Buddhism doesn't flourish. Buddhism doesn't flourish because everyone makes excuses. My practice is still poor, so I don't liberate anyone. Is there anyone in this world who practices well? Raise your hand. Anyone who practices well, please raise your hand. See, no one raises their hand, so everyone admits they are still lacking, right? And the reason we are lacking is why we don't liberate anyone? Then where does Buddhism go? Buddhism will decline immediately. So here, we must liberate people even when our practice is still poor. Remember that. But if you say you're still poor in practice, how can you liberate others? Don't worry, we have a method. We don't use our own spiritual power to liberate, but we borrow the spiritual power of the Buddha, of the saints, and of Dharma friends who have experience in practice. For example, I am also not someone with spiritual power in practice, but I can still teach the Dharma because I borrow the spiritual power of the Buddha. So it can still be done, no problem. So we must be like that, even if our practice is still poor. We must still liberate others, then Buddhism will flourish. That's the method, like being poor and campaigning for more people to make merit together, not taking out all your own money. How much do you have? You take it all out and it's gone immediately. But if you are skillful with words, with a sincere heart, with campaigning, you can still make this person help that person. And you are just the coordinator, not the one who says, oh, that lady, oh my goodness, she's so poor, her husband died, her children died, her house burned down. I'll help her with 30 million VND. When in reality, you don't have 30 million VND to help. What is that 30 million VND? It's for many other Dharma friends contributing to help her overcome her hardship. So, you're not the one who helps, but you say, I helped her with 30 million VND. That statement is wrong. It's just that you are the coordinator, the intermediary, for one Dharma friend to help another Dharma friend. You are just a guest, a middleman entering life and making life blossom with many good things. You have nothing at all. Remember, understand it like that, then you can confidently do it. The poorer we are, the more we make merit. Our way of making merit is to be an intermediary, a coordinator, to bring goodness from one person to another. Just like I am an intermediary, bringing the sublime spiritual power of the Buddha to all sentient beings. I have nothing at all. And one day, I will also dust my hands and become dust flying away. There's nothing left. But I leave behind many things because how many souls have their Dharma minds grown? So I have nothing at all. That's all, okay? Remember those two things. And in the matter of teaching and liberating people, if those who are enthusiastic and eager to go to the pagoda with us today, Next month they hide and don't go to the pagoda with us anymore. We call them, they don't answer. What if they see our phone number and know we're inviting them to the pagoda, so they hang up and don't answer? Do we get angry? No. Remember, that's normal because sentient beings don't like to practice. They practice because we persuade them, and after a while, they have their own private reasons, they get discouraged, they hide. Remember, be persistent. Stick with them patiently and generously. If they don't answer the phone, fine, leave it. Go to their house, wait in front of their door. We have to be the thick skin to liberate people. We have to make sure they don't see our face as if they're seeing the Grim Reaper and run away. They shouldn't run away out the back door or climb over the fence. We have to make them happy to see us even if they run away because they love fun, not because they hate us. Because we are always humble, gentle, subtle, profound, and understand their psychology to teach them. That's how people are. And this is important when they listen to us and practice. We must invite them to make merit so that both can have blessings. This is the important part now. For it is precisely when they do good deeds, when they make merit, that they will truly stand firm in the Dharma. Only when they go to build roads with us, repair damaged roads, only when they release animals, plant trees with us will they stand firm. Otherwise, if we only invite them to come to the pagoda to chant and meditate, they will remain unstable, easily swayed. But when they have done good deeds with us, they will immediately stand firm. Their minds will become firm. Remember, making merit is very powerful. So when we liberate someone, we must go through the stage of inviting them to make merit together. If they are willing to make merit with us, then that person has just taken another step up in their spiritual practice. They are quite stable, so we can start to worry less. Remember that. There are these lines of poetry. May everyone in this mortal world love and hear it. When you hear love, your eyes light up, right? Oh, how sublime is the path of meditation that the Buddha once taught, keeping the heart happy forever. Let's end here today.